Religion as a conservative force. Conservative in two different senses. The first one is conservative in the sense of being traditional, so customs and morals. It upholds traditional beliefs about how society should be. The second one is conservative because it functions to preserve things as they are, so stabilizes society and maintains the status quo. Religion's conservative beliefs. Most religions have conservative beliefs on moral issues, quite restrictive for some individuals. For example, the Catholic Church forbids divorce, abortion, gay marriage, etc. Another example is Hinduism, wherein endorses male domestic authority and the practices of arranged marriage. Religion's conservative functions. Preserves and maintains the status quo. So functionalism and religion says that religion is conservative because it maintains social stability and prevents society from disintegrating. Marxism say that religion is a conservative force because it uses ideology that prevents social change through promoting false class consciousness. And then feminism and religion says religion is a conservative force because it acts as an ideology that legitimates patriarchy, power, and maintains women's subordination. Religion as a force for change. This is spoken about by Max Weber. So Weber argues that it is the Protestant Calvinist work ethic that helped bring about major changes in the form of capitalism in Northern Europe. He looks at the Protestant work ethic and the spirit of capitalism. Calvinist beliefs include predestination, divine transcendence, and asceticism, and the idea of a vocation. Predestination is the idea that God predetermines who will be saved, so the elect, and individuals can do nothing about this. Divine transcendence is the belief that God is so far above and beyond this world that no human being could possibly claim to know his will, leaving the Calvinists to feel an unprecedented inner loneliness. This creates what Weber calls a salvation panic among Calvinists. Asceticism is the idea of abstinence, self-discipline, and self-denial. And the idea of a vocation or calling to serve God, but in the everyday world of work, so not in a monastery. Calvinism invented this worldly asceticism where a vocation means constant methodological work in an occupation. Modern capitalism is based on the systematic, efficient pursuit of profit for its own sake rather than consumption. He argues that this has an elective affinity or unconscious similarity to Calvinist beliefs and attitudes. So people would not spend their money on luxuries, instead reinvested in their own businesses, causing them to grow and prosper. In Weber's view, this is the spirit of modern capitalism. Calvinism thus brought capitalism as we know it into the world. However, Tawney, Tawney, argues that technological change, not religious ideas, first led to capitalism. The bourgeoisie then adapted Calvinist beliefs to legitimate their pursuit of economic growth. Religion as a force for change. Social protest. This is spoken about by Bruce. So Bruce uses two case studies to compare the role of religiously inspired movements in America that tried to change society. So, the American Civil Rights Movement, Black Civil Rights Movement of the 1960s, is an example of religiously motivated change. Bruce describes the black clergy as the backbone of the movement, giving moral legitimacy to civil rights activists. The church provided a meeting place and a sanctuary from the threat of white violence, and prayer and hymn singing helped unite people in the face of oppression. An ideological resource, it provided beliefs and practices that protesters could draw on for support. It is a good example of religion becoming involved in a circular struggle and helping to bring about change. And then the Christian right. So the Christian right is a politically and morally conservative Protestant fundamentalist movement. It has gained prominence since the 1960s. The NCR's aims is to make abortion, homosexuality and divorce illegal and take the USA back to God, turning the clock back to a time before the liberation of American society. They believe in the traditional family and gender roles, campaigns for the teaching of creationism, and wants to ban sex education in schools. The NCR uses televangelism, where church-owned TV stations raise funds and broadcast programs aimed to making converts. The Moral Majority, a right-wing Christian pressure group and part of the NCR, became the focus for political campaigning and for influencing the Republican Party. Bruce argues that the NCR has been largely unsuccessful because it has never had the support of more than 15% of the population at most. The democratic values of American society mean that most Americans are comfortable with legalizing activities such as abortion and homosexuality. Marxism, religion and change. Marxists are often thought of as seeing religion as a conservative ideology. However, this is not always the case. Many Marxists recognize that ideas, including religious ones, can have relative autonomy. They can be partly independent of the capitalist economic base of society. As a result, religion can have a dual character and can sometimes be a force for change as well as stability. For example, even Marx himself does not describe religion as entirely negative. He describes religion as the heart of a heartless world, able to provide comfort even if it's only an illusion. For example, promises of rewards in heaven. Engels argues that although religion inhibits change by disguising inequality, it can also encourage social change. For example, the lower ranks of the church hierarchy have sometimes supported popular protest. Engels says that although religion can prevent social change, it can also challenge the status quo and encourage social change. For example, religion sometimes preaches liberation from slavery and misery. Liberation theology. This is a movement that emerged within the Catholic Church in Latin America at the end of the 1960s. It shows how the same religious organizations can be both conservative and a force for social change. Muldrow says that religion can be a revolutionary force. In the case of liberation theology, religious ideas radicalized the Catholic Church in defense of peasants and the poor, changing their theology to support their liberation, making them see that serving the poor was part of their Christian duty. However, the liberation theology movement did not succeed in redistribution of wealth to the poor, but it did help bring about democracy in some countries, therefore still providing a source of social change. Gramsci, religion and hegemony. Gramsci is interested in how the ruling class maintained their control of society through ideas rather than simply going through cohesion, which is force. Hegemony. So this is the ideological domination or leadership of society, and it is the way that the ruling class are able to use religion to maintain control. For example, in Italy in the 1920s/1930s, the conservative ideological power of the Catholic Church helped to win support for the fascist regime. However, in some circumstances, religion can challenge the ruling class. For example, it may help the working class to see through the ruling class hegemony, and some clergy may act as the organic intellectuals. leaders who can support working class organisations. Religion and class conflict. Billings applies Gramsci's ideas in a case study comparing class struggle in two communities, coal miners and textile workers. Both were working class and evangelical Protestant, but the miners were much more militant, struggling for better conditions. The differences in levels of militancy can be understood in terms of hegemony and the role of religion. The miners benefited from the leadership of organic intellectuals, miners who were also lay preachers. A summary of religion as a force for change or conservative force. Some sociologists would argue that religion does not always uphold traditional beliefs and function to maintain the status quo. For example, Weber argues that the Protestant work ethic contributed to the birth of rational capitalism, bringing about economic change in society. Weber is criticized by Marxists who may suggest that the economic factors were the main cause for this change. In this view, religion reflects, but also does not cause change. Other Marxists, such as Muldrow, who gives liberation theology as an example, argue that religion has potential to bring about change. Religious organizations have actively supported campaigns for social change. Examples of this, including the US Civil Rights Movement, have succeeded. Others, such as the New Christian Right, have failed to gain support. Unlike functionalists who see religion only as a conservative force, most others would argue that whether religion helps to bring about or inhibit social change varies according to social or historical conditions.